you are well this Friday morning. It is a busy one. Let's take a live look at the Capitol right now. Democrats set to wrap up their opening arguments in the impeachment trial of President Trump today. But before that, senators are going to get an urgent government briefing on the coronavirus.
Yeah, concerns are growing now here in the United States. Several possible cases now under investigation, including a college student in Texas who just came back from Wuhan, China. That city and at least now 9 others are on lockdown as these cases are skyrocketing.
And here are the latest numbers. There are now nearly 900 confirmed cases around the world. Marcus Moore starts us off from College Station, Texas, with more on that possible case there. Good morning, Marcus.
Michael, good morning. This latest possible case involves a student from Texas A&M University. He had recently returned from Wuhan and took himself to the emergency room after suffering from flu-like symptoms. And now testing is underway. Overnight, the race to stop the spread of the dangerous coronavirus expanding across the country. In Washington state, where the first confirmed case in the U.S. was reported, a man is still in isolation as officials scramble to reach at least 43 people he's known to have come into close contact with. Officials in California, Tennessee, and Texas now testing patients for possible infection.
This situation is evolving quickly, and I do expect more cases in the United States, as well as human-to-human transmission.
At LAX, where urgent health screenings were already underway, a passenger flying in from Mexico was placed in quarantine with possible symptoms. Now the U.S. State Department is issuing a travel advisory for China, urging Americans not to travel to certain areas due to the risk of the coronavirus, hoping to prevent travelers from bringing the virus back home.
Airport screening, it can be an effective measure, but it's hard with coronavirus just because it takes so long for symptoms to develop.
In China, unprecedented efforts to stop the disease that has no known vaccine or treatment. Over 30 million people and at least 10 cities are now in lockdown. Officials canceling the popular Lunar New Year celebrations and shutting down travel to and from multiple areas.
Quarantining a city of 11 million, as well as a couple of other cities in China, that's never been done before.
The virus has already spread to at least 10 countries, infecting more than 880 people and claiming the lives of at least 26. Urgent scenes at clinics across the globe and empty store shelves as people react to the global health scare that so far is showing no signs of slowing. And officials here in Texas are saying that the risk to the public remains low, but it will take a day or two for them to confirm if this Texas patient has the coronavirus. Cecilia?
Okay, Marcus Moore, thank you. Ian Pannell is on the ground in Hong Kong this morning where they're racing to contain the spread as cases in the region there rise. Good morning, Ian.
Yeah, good morning, Cecilia. That's right, no signs the spread of this virus is slowing here either. All but 2 provinces in China now have cases. Pretty much the whole province of Hubei, which of course is the epicenter, is now in lockdown. That means all airports, roads, railway stations, buses and ports. That's around 30 million people effectively grounded. The Children's Hospital in Wuhan now making a desperate plea online for medical supplies, and scenes of chaos in other hospitals. And now we're hearing the authorities are racing to build a brand new 1,000-bed facility in the next 10 days. Meanwhile, the Chinese authorities declaring a grade 1 public health emergency in the country's 2 biggest cities, which effectively means that Beijing is now taking control of this crisis. So we're seeing movie theaters being shut. Even parts of the Great Wall are off limits, and Disneyland Shanghai is now temporarily closed to visitors.
Yeah, a lot of people there are scared. And Ian, we're hearing now that just where you are there in Hong Kong, more cases have been announced.
Yeah, that's right, Cecilia. Just as we're preparing to come on air this morning, we know that there are cases in 8 other countries or territories across East Asia. But we're now hearing here in Hong Kong, authorities saying there are 2 more confirmed cases. And we've also heard that another case has been declared in Japan, where the patient came through the same airport that we travelled through this morning. We saw lots of people wearing face masks. Also, there were health checks being conducted by officials using these electronic thermometers. And a reminder, it's now Lunar New Year's Eve right now. That's why you've got all these beautiful lights behind me, and that means we've got as many as hundreds of millions of people now on the move, making this a whole lot worse for health officials. And look, we're using these protection masks when we go out. People are washing their hands, using hand sanitizer, avoiding public areas. This is supposed to be a time of celebration. Think Thanksgiving and the holiday season all rolled into one, and people are having to take these kind of precautions. Cecilia?
We have nothing to keep taking those precautions. Okay, Ian, thank you. George?
Okay, see the latest now in the impeachment trial of President Trump. Now senators will wrap up their case against the president today after using the president's own words against him yesterday and taking on the president's argument by mounting their strongest defense yet of Joe Biden. Our senior congressional correspondent Mary Bruce is on Capitol Hill. And Mary, the big question, are these arguments making any impact on Senate Republicans?
Well, George, I can tell you from spending time inside the chamber that many Republicans are paying close attention. They are taking detailed notes, following closely as the Democrats make their case. Now, some I've talked to, some Republicans say they are frustrated, that they've heard this all before. But many Republicans admit the Democrats are giving them things to think about.
If right doesn't matter, we're lost. If the truth doesn't matter, we're lost.
Overnight, Democratic prosecutor Adam Schiff with an emotional appeal.
You know that what he did was not right. No constitution can protect us. Right doesn't matter anymore.
A passionate conclusion after Democrats hammered their case for 8 hours.
When it came down to choosing between the national interests of the country and his own personal interests, his re-election, President Trump chose himself.
The Democrats zeroing in on the timing, saying Trump didn't start pushing Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden until 2019, right when the polls showed the former vice president was his biggest threat.
Those polls do show a powerful motive that Donald Trump had. A motive that he didn't have the year before or the year before that.
Trump's now infamous phone call with the Ukrainian president was in July of 2019, 2 years after Trump took office, but just 3 months after Biden entered the race.
Even President Trump knew there was no basis for this investigation. He never once raised the issue. It wasn't until Biden began beating him in the polls that he called for the investigation.
Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia then set out to dismantle the White House's repeated allegations against Biden.
The allegations against Vice President Biden are groundless. There is simply no evidence, nothing, nada, in the record to support this baseless allegation.
Trump's legal team argues abuse of power is not a crime and therefore not impeachable.
The actions of the president do not reach that level. You still have to meet basic fundamental constitutional obligations, and they haven't.
But members of Trump's own defense team and his attorney general, Bill Barr, have argued the opposite, that you don't need a crime to impeach. Democrats even playing this old video of Trump's top ally, Senator Lindsey Graham, from the Clinton impeachment trial.
I think that's what they meant by high crimes. Doesn't have to be a crime.
Democrats now have one more day to make their case. Some Republicans say they've had enough.
They start repeating themselves as if you could impeach by just kind of repeating the same thing.
But other key Republicans are listening closely. Senator Lamar Alexander saying the Democrats have done a good job presenting, and we have a lot to consider. Democrats now hopeful it's a sign they're persuading some Republicans to support their case.
Now it's up to us to do something about it. To make sure that this president cannot pursue an objective that places himself above our country.
Democrats now have 8 hours left on the clock. Then tomorrow, according to the current schedule, it will be the Trump team's turn. They will then have 3 days total to make their case and respond. But George, sources tell us that they may opt for a shorter session on Saturday so they can make the bulk of their argument next week when more people are likely to be tuning in.
Okay, Mary, thanks. Let's bring our chief White House correspondent, John Carl, for more on this right now. And John, we did see the Democrats yesterday really talk about Biden more than they have before because they want to take on the president's claim that he was pursuing corruption, not going after a political rival. And his lawyers yesterday suggested this could backfire on the Democrats?
Well, absolutely, because they think this is an opening. You can bet, George, that when the president's team comes to make their case, a big part of the case will be to eviscerate Joe Biden, to take on Joe and Hunter Biden. They believe that in making this defense, the Democrats have basically called for this So you will see the president say, first the president's team say he did nothing wrong, even if he did what's alleged is not impeachable, and then a bulk of this presentation to be taking on Joe Biden.
And Mary just said, we think now this session is likely to happen tomorrow, but the White House has been kind of all over the map on that, even suggesting at some point that they didn't want to meet on Saturday at all because no one would be watching.
Yeah, the very latest I have on this morning from somebody close to the president's team is that they expect that they will be in session on Saturday. It'll be short, probably a couple of hours, and they will wait until Monday to make the bulk of their case.
Okay, John Carl, thanks very much. And I know you'll be joining us for our live coverage of the Senate impeachment trial. I'll be anchoring with our political and legal team starting at 1 Eastern this afternoon. Michael?
All right, thank you, George. And now we're going to the rough winter weather. Moving into millions as we head into the weekend. It's bringing snow, rain, and ice from the Midwest to the Northeast, and Ginger has all the details as usual. Good morning, Ginger.
Good morning to you. This time it's a half-inch of ice in Arkansas, taking down those power lines. Really stunning to see there. And it wasn't just in the Ozarks, but all the way up to Kansas City, where the public schools this morning are closed. So you're seeing why. The roads are messy. From there to Minnesota, this is Clearwater, Minnesota. So near St. Cloud, the spinoffs, and you're going to see more of this. And I'll show you where. Chicago's one of those places I want to really alert you to, because if you have flights later this afternoon or tonight, you could end up with 2 to 6 inches. So northwest suburbs, say Fox Lake, you're going to see the heaviest of the snow. The wraparound goes all the way to northern Missouri, but it's the heavy rain and even chance of thunderstorms. Today in South Carolina, you can see a brief tornado. Tomorrow, the heavy rain moves all the way, Cecilia, right here through New York City.
Oh, it is rough out there. Okay, Ginger, thanks. We're going to turn now to that breaking news in Houston. Take a look. A massive explosion completely destroying a building there. This footage catching the moment that it goes up in flames. Our station KTRK's Courtney Fisher is live on the scene there with the very latest. Good morning, Courtney.
Good morning, Cecilia. Ceilings of homes caved in, walls cracked. Look at this, windows blown out. Those are blinds and shattered glass on the floor. We were actually inside some of these houses. Firefighters came by with axes telling us we had to get out. It is not safe to be here. We're going to cross the street and kind of bring you around so you can see, though, inside these houses some of this damage. Look at that. Boards everywhere. And then over here where those firefighters are, this car actually just drove out of this garage. But inside that garage, you can see there is just sheetrock is down, pieces of insulation everywhere. Right now, no reports of any injuries, but we have seen ambulances and firefighters, vehicles kind of streaming out of this neighborhood. We're still trying to figure out exactly how that plant exploded. Still a very chaotic scene out here. We'll send it back to you in New York.
We are certainly hoping everyone there is okay. Courtney, thank you so much. Also this morning, new developments in that case involving Michelle Carter, the young woman sentenced to jail for urging her boyfriend to take his own life. Now she's waking up free, released early. Joe Benitez has the story.
This morning, 23-year-old Michelle Carter, who was convicted of manslaughter after prosecutors argued that she urged her boyfriend to take his own life, is out of jail 3 months earlier than expected. Her belongings carried out to a waiting SUV, her parents inside the vehicle. Carter was sentenced to 15 months, but less than a year after her sentencing, she was released on good behavior. In 2014, a judge determined that then 17-year-old Carter caused 18-year-old Conrad Roy's death when she ordered him in a phone call to get back into his parked truck. He had rigged the truck to fill up with deadly carbon monoxide. The court also saw text messages where Carter encouraged Roy to follow through with his plan to die by suicide.
She used Conrad as a pawn in her sick game of life and death.
Carter will now serve 5 years of probation. And the court also ruled that Carter cannot profit from telling her story. And we want to make sure you know this morning that if you or someone you know is struggling, make sure to call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. That number's on the screen right now, 1-800-273-TALK. It's just so important.
A very important number. Thank you so much for sharing that, Gio. And we're going to switch gears now and turn to all the action at the Australian Open. Coco Gauff soaring past the reigning champ just hours ago, but it was a tough loss for Serena Williams overnight. Knocked out in the third round. Paul Ferris has the latest.
Overnight, a shocking upset. Serena Williams ousted out of the Australian Open in the third round.
I just made far too many errors to be a professional athlete today.
Her loss paving the way for a possible new queen of American tennis.
Tonight, Chrissy just comfortably composed, stays cool as your opponent melts down.
That's just tough. You don't want to lose to a 15-year-old, you know? 15-year-old teen phenom Coco Gauff upsetting world number 3 and Japan's Naomi Osaka.
Just telling myself one point at a time and just keep fighting because you never know what happens on this court.
On the men's side, this ball girl got the surprise of her life after Rafael Nadal's return struck her in the side of the head. Nadal quickly rushed over to her to see if she was okay, even giving her a kiss on the cheek. After the match, the 33-year-old tweeted a picture saying, "So happy she is well after the scariest moment I've had on a tennis court. Anita is a brave girl."
Nadal cruised to victory in straight sets. As for Coco Gauff, yes, she's just 15 years old. She's still in school, taking online classes. She said after the match she has some homework due, but her teachers are giving her an extension due to the circumstances. Understood.
She deserves that. Thanks, Paula.
Okay, thank you. Also this morning, we want to honor Jim Lair, the journalist and writer who anchored PBS NewsHour for 36 years. He was a consummate reporter, careful interviewer who earned the respect of his subjects, like President Bill Clinton, who presented Lair with the National Humanities Medal and tweeted overnight, "His life was a gift that strengthened our democracy." Lair moderated a dozen presidential debates, more than anyone else.
When the debate is over that I moderate, I want everybody to say, okay, here you have seen and heard the candidates for President of the United States on the same stage at the same time talking about the same things, and you can judge them. You know, is he telling the truth, all that kind of stuff. Well, you can't, and you see them right there together, it's a huge test.
And you know, you heard right there why he was chosen so many times. He's a scrupulously fair man, and he always made sure to make debates about the candidates, not himself, and also just a really gracious Southern gentleman.
Such a crucial part of our democracy.
He sure was.
Really was.
We are following a lot of other stories this morning, including those new developments in the Harvey Weinstein trial, some stunning testimony from Sopranos actress Annabella Sciorra, and Ronan Farrow, who broke her story, is going to join us live in a minute.
And the high school student facing suspension if he doesn't cut his dreadlocks. But first, let's head back over to Ginger.
And Sherman Pass, Washington State, more than 4 feet of snow since the beginning of the year. And by the way, flood alerts are up. Olympia has had more than 10 inches of rain, which is above average. Your local weather in 30 seconds. First, the weekend getaway, sponsored by Audible.
This commute's been pretty rough, huh?
It's great, actually. I've been listening to Audible, to audiobooks, news, meditations. Gotta go. On Chicago's South Side, several Chicago police personnel had to evacuate the 1st District Police Station on the near South Side after a minor explosion. Police say this happened in a computer room on the 2nd floor, and the explosion set off a fire suppression system. The fire crew aired the room out. Nobody was hurt. Let's get a check of the ABC7 AccuWeather forecast now with meteorologist Tracy Butler. Tanya, steady precipitation is diminishing.
Get that Super Bowl halftime show. Katy Perry owning the stage, but it was Les Sharks who made all the headlines, dancing to his own beat in 2015. And now, in the sneak peek of this year's highly anticipated halftime show featuring Jennifer Lopez and Shakira, they just released some clues about what to expect. But we have those details coming up in the show.
You don't have secret details you can share with us?
Not a deal, nothing.
Nope. Okay. That's ahead. But for some top headlines that we are following right now, more than 33 million people are now on lockdown in China as the coronavirus spreads. There are nearly 900 cases around the world, at least 26 deaths. And here in the U.S., possible cases are now under investigation in Texas, California, Washington, and Tennessee. Also this morning, it is a big day on Capitol Hill. Democrats set to finish presenting their case against President Trump in his impeachment trial, hammering home the argument that the president abused his power and chose himself over the country. And we've got some more music news for you this morning. The Academy Awards announcing who will perform at the Oscars show. So here's a clue. You'll get to see the Rocket Man in real life. That's more than a clue. That's basically telling you who's performing, but we're going to tell you more about it in Hot News.
That is coming up right now. We're going to get the latest in the Harvey Weinstein trial. Riveting day in the courtroom as the actress Annabella Sciorra told the courtroom in graphic detail that Harvey Weinstein raped her. You heard that story this morning, huh?
That's right, George. Good morning to you. More than 80 women have accused Harvey Weinstein of sexual assault or some form of misconduct. 6 of them are scheduled to testify at this trial, and Annabella Sciorra was the first, and what she said was both emotional and chilling.
Explosive testimony as actress Annabella Sciorra took the stand on Thursday, testifying against Harvey Weinstein, the man she says attacked her in her New York City apartment more than 25 years ago.
Hey. See
most famous for her Emmy-nominated role as Tony Soprano's mistress on The Sopranos. Kansas said Shiora was an up-and-comer in Hollywood in the early 90s, appearing in movies like The Hand That Rocks the Cradle around the time she met Weinstein at an industry event.
How did you come to be an Annie?
In court on Thursday, Shiora, now 59, at times visibly shaken, taking the stand for hours, recounting the night she says she was sexually assaulted by Weinstein nearly 3 decades ago, refusing to use his name, only referring to him as the defendant. Tears streaming down her face, Shiora telling the jury after the Hollywood Titan dropped her off from a group dinner with Uma Thurman and several others, he forced his way into her Manhattan apartment and pinned her hands above her head, assaulting her as she fought back, punching him, kicking him. The actress says that when she confronted Weinstein weeks later, he leaned into me and said, "This remains between you and I." His eyes were black. I thought he was going to hit me right there. Weinstein's defense team fighting back, trying to undermine Shiora's credibility, claiming she showed up drunk to the set of their movie The Night We Never Met, which she denies.
I keep trying to tell him that it's like he just doesn't want to listen.
The defense team also pointing out that Shiora didn't call police and asking why, a few years later, upon learning that Weinstein staying at the same hotel she was during the Cannes Film Festival, she didn't turn to her co-stars Robert De Niro and Sylvester Stallone for protection. Shiora is a witness for the prosecution. Her allegations fall beyond the statute of limitations, and Weinstein has not been charged with assaulting her. Weinstein has always maintained his innocence, claiming his sexual encounters with all women were consensual. Just the first week of testimony.
Incredible story. Okay, thanks very much. Joining us now from Los Angeles, Ronan Farrow, author of Catch and Kill and host of the Catch and Kill podcast. Ronan, welcome back to GMA. Annabella Shiora, as Amy just reported, denied his defense at the beginning, kept silent for years, but she first told her story to you. So I can just imagine what you were thinking as she was on that stand yesterday and how difficult this must have been for her.
You know, I think for every woman involved in this trial and in the now ongoing separate criminal proceedings in Los Angeles, it's an emotionally wrenching experience. I can tell you that the initial conversation I had where Annabella Shiora disclosed those same details that she told the world on the stand yesterday was one of the hardest conversations that I'd ever heard a source have. She was, gasping for air. It was physically difficult for her to recount these details. So you can imagine how this further step of going through recounting all this yet again, and then subjecting herself to what she knew would be a brutal attempt to discredit her, that's a really difficult thing for anyone to do.
Were you able to contact her after the testimony yesterday?
I'm not going to speak for her. If she wants to give her thoughts on how it went, she can do that in her own time and in her own way. I can tell you that, we've been in touch. It's a difficult process for her and everyone else involved. And I can tell you that people in the courtroom were struck by how calm she was yesterday, how she really did keep her cool in the face of a pretty intensive grilling, which, she had to go through as part of the journalism process, and now she's having to go through all this.
That's what I was going to ask you about. She was calm, but the defense really did try to rattle her. It was a pretty tough cross-examination. Did they make any headway?
George, it seems like the underpinning of the line of questioning you're seeing from Weinstein's defense attorneys almost marks a generational divide in how we look at these issues. They are trying to bank on the idea that there are going to be jurors seated in this trial who are sympathetic to the idea that if you don't fight back hard enough, if you don't tell enough people immediately,
if you don't contact you afterwards
in some way. Right, exactly. A big thread in this is how much contact after the fact. And I think there's going to be a segment of this jury that understands that when you rely on someone professionally, as many of these women did on Harvey Weinstein, you can't always avoid them. That sexual assault very often comes from individuals that you can't get away from immediately, that you have to be photographed near. They actually have had a more difficult time advancing that argument with respect to Annabella Shiora. They were able to show pictures of Weinstein on her sex, but not actually in proximity to her.
In the latest episode of the Catch and Kill podcast, you actually played some previously unheard audio of Harvey Weinstein talking to one of his accusers. What's the significance of what's on that tape, and what more can we expect?
One of the patterns that prosecutors are going to be looking at closely in both of these cases is Harvey Weinstein's alleged habit of dangling career opportunities as an entree to what women said was then either harassment or assault. And how quickly those promises could turn into threats. And one of the extraordinary things about this podcast format and the process of reporting it out is we've been able to get tape of exactly that. So you hear him with armed inauguration in 2015, saying, I can help your career, I can give you job opportunities, but you have to be comfortable with me, you have to have fun with me. Then it graduates to a request for a massage, and when she doesn't accept those entrees, explicit threats. You're going to miss out on big opportunities.
Brother Farrell, thanks very much.
Good to be here. Thanks, George.
Michael?
All right, George, we're going to go now to the fallout growing over at Texas High School's decision to punish two students who refused to cut their dreadlocks. Celebrities are now chiming in, sharing their support for those teens, and Lindsay Davis is here with the story. Good morning, Lindsay.
Good morning to you, Michael. Among them, Houston Texans star receiver DeAndre Hopkins, who tweeted, "Never cut your locks, DeAndre Arnold." Some are calling this case racial insensitivity, but the school says this is not about the race of the students, but the length of their hair. Any way you cut it, this is a story about two young men being suspended because of their dreadlocks. 17-year-old DeAndre Arnold and his 16-year-old cousin, Caden Bradford, are both facing school suspensions for the length of their dreadlocks because the school says they're violating the dress code. The school district also says if DeAndre does not cut his hair, he will not be allowed to walk in graduation. And if Caden doesn't cut his hair, he'll have to quit the band.
We've put our hair up. We've had many different styles tried out, and every time you guys will find some way to say that it's not in dress code.
Their family is from Trinidad, where dreadlocks are common, and they say they pin their hair back to comply with the dress code.
I really like that part of Trinidadian culture, so, I really embrace that.
This small Texas town is predominantly white, and some have criticized the district's policy, calling it racially insensitive. But the superintendent claims it's all about the length of their hair.
We've had this policy since the inception of our district 90 years ago. This is the first instance of any accusation that our dress code is biased.
When it comes to our hairstyle, they're not really educated, because it's like me and DeAndre, it's like one in a million.
New York, New Jersey, and California have all passed legislation called the Crown Act, which bans discrimination based on natural hairstyles. Senator Cory Booker has also introduced federal legislation that would make this a national ban. But in this case, the school drawing a hard line saying, cut your hair or you will not be able to walk during graduation.
Wow. That's a tough one there.
More to come on this story, that's for sure. Okay, Lindsay, thank you so much. Coming up, we've got a Super Bowl sneak peek from J.Lo and Shakira, the new clues about their halftime show. We'll tell you.
What do you got? Good save, lad.
Huge halftime show from J.Lo and Shakira. TJ Holmes is here with all this. I'm excited about this part.
I know, but do you remember the conversation was different this year? Last year, in the lead up to the halftime show, it was about what? Controversy.
Yes.
Artists didn't even want to perform because of the whole Colin Kaepernick controversy. But what a difference a year and Jay-Z made. Jay-Z now partnering with the NFL on the halftime show, and he has now given us two icons, essentially, and they are now giving us just a taste. Dancing. Posing. Teasing. This morning, the countdown to the Super Bowl halftime show is on, and with just a little over a week to go, Latin superstars Jennifer Lopez and Shakira are taking their fans behind the scenes, sharing glimpses of tiny dancers, clues for what's to come on Super Bowl Sunday. Shakira posted this photo on Instagram rehearsing for the show, leaping across the stage with the caption, 10 days, and posting this video throwing around a football, writing, stepping up our preparations. J.Lo, hot on her heels, posting this video overnight on Instagram.
I just be here on the 25-yard line, waiting for my cue.
While over on her TikTok feed, the former Fly Girl dancing to her mega hit On the Floor. Encouraging her fans to take the J.Lo Super Bowl Challenge by putting their own spin on her chart-topping collaboration with Pitbull.
Shakira and J.Lo have collaborated with so many of the most famous artists, and an insider tells us that the goal is to bring as much star power to that stage as possible. It's going to be an exciting show.
The two powerhouse pop divas have long-standing ties to Miami, embracing a community both have called home and paying tribute to their Latin roots.
I love that it's in Miami. Yeah, it is a very Latino town, and that they picked the two of us.
And those cultural connections matter. This is going to be the first halftime show under Jay-Z's umbrella. His company, Roc Nation, is now the NFL's live music entertainment strategist, and he wants to get it right.
Can't go to a city, pop a show down, and then leave. You know, like, really speak to the community.
Now, I don't want to say it's just all good. There was still some criticism. We can't make everybody happy that Jay-Z, he's in charge of the show now, and he picked these two artists. Miami has a rich music history. Gloria Estefan. You even got, DJ Khaled, Rick Ross, Enrique Iglesias. Dare I even say Two Live Crew? That might have been a roll of the dice, but still. But you can expect Pitbull, of course. There's going to be some guest appearances, so we'll see what happens.
Cricket took me back. But they can still show up. You never know, DJ. All right, thank you for that. And coming up, we have our play of the day. It's going to have you feeling